everybody. My name is Anna Misurelli. I'm so excited to be here with you on Wandering Minds. Thank you, Wandering Minds, for inviting me to do a Facebook Live on your page. So I've been asked here today to talk with you guys about virtual instruction and all the challenges that are coming with online learning for both educators and parents. To give you a little bit of background on me, so my name is Anna Misurelli and I have my own blog. It's called annamisurelli.com, Education Beyond the Classroom. And what it is a blog for primarily parents who are looking to support their child's education at home, whether they're homeschooling or they're just looking to see if they can get any more supplemental information for their students who are working through the whole online process. It's a great place to go. I give a lot of strategies and insight into the world of teaching. So my job, I'm a blogger, but I'm a freelance writer as well, and I'm also a full-time teacher and a mom. So quite busy. But the blog really has been wonderful, and it's been a really great platform for me to use what I know about teaching and what I know about the education field and try and help support parents who are really struggling through this online virtual experience, this remote distance learning, which is really hard. I'm stationed in Rhode Island, so the U.S. What I'm going to be talking about today is really what's been happening with, I'm just trying to get, this is my first Facebook Live, so I'm just seeing how I can, if I need to do anything before I get started. Okay, I think that we're good to go. I'm going to give it one more minute just to make sure that I have, let's see. Okay, I'll speak a little bit louder. Okay. So since this is my first Facebook Live, I'm getting some good feedback about how to do it. So I'm going to talk a little bit louder. So I'm going to get a little bit closer and a little bit louder. So hi again to everybody. My name is Anna Misurelli, and I am a blogger and freelance writer. I'm also an educator and a mom. And I'm here to talk to you today about virtual instruction and what it's like for both parents and educators going through this process, at least where I am, which is a bit of a struggle, to put it lightly. And also to talk a little bit about my blog, and if you have any interest in checking it out after the Facebook Live, that would be great. My blog is annamisurelli.com, Education Beyond the Classroom. And it's a blog for parents who are working to try and enhance and support their child's education at home. So whether they are homeschooling their kids or going through this virtual learning and just need extra ideas, this would be a place to go and get that. So one of the things that I did to sort of prep for this Facebook Live was that I asked a lot of parents some of their top concerns and struggles with virtual learning, what they went through last spring, what they're nervous about going through this fall. And then the same with teachers. I asked teachers, what are things that you are struggling with, that you're not, sure how it's going to work, anything that you might need. So I got a lot of responses from both parents and teachers. And let me see. Oops, sorry. Okay. And one of the things that came up was, as I was reading through a lot of parent comments and a lot of teacher comments, I was shocked to see that there's actually a lot that is exactly the same. What parents are really concerned about and struggling with, teachers are struggling with the exact same thing or pretty similar. So what I was going to go through and do, if you have questions and you want to post them, that's great, and hopefully I can address some of those as well. But what I have some questions myself that have been asked that I thought I would read to you and sort of share. And then you can see how similar they actually are, and that we're really not at odds. I know where I am right now, there's a lot going on about teachers and parents being at odds with one another. Parents are really frustrated, teachers are really frustrated, and we're getting kind of pitted against each other, and that's really not what we want to have happen. So one of the things that came up, so one of the top questions that parents were asking was about keeping their kids motivated and engaged in the virtual learning experience. And that's a top teacher concern as well too. So a lot of questions like, I have no teaching degree, but I'm being asked to teach. How are you supposed to do a job you have no training in? That came from a lot of parents. And teachers feel, in a lot of ways, kind of the same. We're being asked to do a job that we don't necessarily know how to do. We know how to teach kids. We've always done it in a classroom. The whole virtual platform is very different. So we're struggling with that too. We're being asked to use quite a bit of new technology, different platforms, and we're struggling how to figure all that out as well. So again, you're just going to see there's a lot of commonalities between what parents are struggling with and what teachers are struggling with. But going back to the first one, so my kids are really lacking motivation. I don't know how to get them interested in online learning. I don't know how to get them focused. I'm at a loss. Teachers struggling with the same thing. We're putting our cameras on and trying to get kids to be interested and engaged and motivated, and we're struggling. So how do we fix that? It's a great question. And while I don't have answers for necessarily all of them, there are some things that we can play around with and try out. But again, my goal really today is to try and show you that what parents are struggling with, teachers are too, and that we're really in this together. So motivating, getting your kids motivated about the whole online experience. One of the things that you can do, and I talked about this in a blog of mine, an article a couple weeks ago, is about preparing your child for success in the virtual learning realm as a parent at home. So one of the things that you can do to make it as exciting as possible is to get your self a space that you can help design with your child. So whether it's a spot in their bedroom or it's an actual separate room or in your living room, it's a place, it's a location that's just for them, that they know they're going to be doing their virtual learning with or on. So they have maybe a desk, you've maybe painted it, you might have bought a bulletin board, you might have done some cool things to sort of make it fun and engaging, and it's a space that they know they're going to be sitting in when they're doing their online learning. It's also a space that you have designated to just their virtual learning. So it's not really for anything else. It can be really convenient for them to have a location when where they're just able to go and do their work and not be so distracted, which is a real fear for a lot of us. But this is when they're sitting here, it's very much like they're sitting at a desk at school, and that they are to be a student when they're in this space and to be focused, and having all the stuff that they need right there is really helpful as well. So they've got they've got books, notebooks, a toolbox with their supplies, whatever they might need, whatever the teacher has requested that they would have brought into school, they have right there. And so at the beginning, obviously it's not, usually at the beginning it goes rather well because it's sort of new and kind of a novelty and they're kind of excited for the first day. A lot of fear is that will wear off as time goes on, and it might. But something that, especially if you have younger kids, changing around their seating options, whether they have a different kind of rolly chair or a ball they can sit on or a stool or something that they're able to sort of move their body a little bit while they're in instruction, while they're receiving instruction, can be great. Things, fidget toys that, you know, kids may not have needed before could be really useful when they're doing online learning, because there is a lot of just listening. It's not the best format. I don't think anybody would ever choose online learning over in-person learning if they didn't have to, or really feel like it was what they needed to do with all of the, you know, concern with the coronavirus. So I'm not saying it's a replacement for in-person learning, but it's definitely a way to make them a little bit more engaged if their hands are busy doing something, playing with a fidget spinner or a rubber band or something, or if what they're sitting on, they're able to move around a little bit as well. Teachers really do appreciate when a child's camera is on. We do try and engage them the most as possible when that camera is on. But there's nothing like face-to-face interaction. And that's just something as well, that has to just be recognized by both parties, parents and teachers. It's not going to be the same. And, we're trying our best and we'll hopefully be as successful as we can, but it's not exactly the same. So making a space for your child that is just for them, where they, have everything that they need in front of them, a comfortable place for them to sit, maybe a different option that they can play around with, a different type of seating arrangement, and something to maybe fidget with their hands while they're actually listening to the instruction can all be really helpful. So those would be a couple of things that I'd recommend just to have in that area. It's also a space they are more than welcome to get up from and move around afterwards when they've been sitting in front of the screen. So another concern, and parents have this and so do teachers, tips for dealing with internet issues. So many people are online now at one time in a household and devices crash, and oh my gosh, teachers are struggling with that as well. It is a big problem when you have internet issues and you're a student trying to learn and trying to log in and submit work. It stinks. And when you're a teacher and you're trying to do instruction and your device goes out or the internet goes out, there's not a whole lot that I can say about internet issues. But what I can, I'm sorry, I'm hearing that there's not sound. Let me see. See, internet issues right now. Let me try and see. Try and talk a little bit louder. All right, I'm turning my sound all the way up, so hopefully this makes a little bit of a difference. Are people able to hear me now? Let me just see. I heard, I can hear. Okay, that's good. All right, great. Some people say that they can hear, which is perfect. So I'll keep going and just try and raise my voice a little bit. It does sound like some people can hear, so that's good. Okay, great. Let's see. So another big issue that many people have is the not enough time for anything problem. And parents are feeling that, and so are teachers. How do I had a mom who wrote me a message and said, I work all day to come home to my child in tears, needing mass amounts of help with work that is due later that night. How am I supposed to help when I've completely depleted myself from having to work? Yeah, that's a concern. So parents are working full time, sometimes in home and sometimes not in home. And then they're coming home or they're going to check in on their child, and their child is just in tears. It's been a long day. They're struggling to get through, and how do I do it? I have no time. So it is definitely something that I can relate to as a parent who was working and trying to take care of my child at home last year. He's only a toddler, so he's not in school yet, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I was still trying to keep an eye on him while I was virtually teaching. So I can only imagine for parents who are virtually teaching, who are working and have kids who are virtually learning at home. It's very, very tough. So one of the things that I thought would be a useful technique is that when your child is virtually learning, something to have in that space is sort of a troubleshooting checklist for them, where they're able to go through a couple of troubleshooting issues before they have to get to you. It's also never a good idea when you come home and you're exhausted after work and your child is a mess to try and tackle whatever the issue is right then and there. Not a good idea. You're tired, they're tired, you're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be really miserable. So it's not a good time to jump into work at all. And really, no teacher wants you to be miserable. No teacher wants this experience to be awful for you or your child. You know, if anything, we're trying to make it as best as we can. We're struggling with it too. So we would never want you to come home and just have to grin and bear it and force your child to sit back down and get to work because something wasn't submitted on time. Don't do that. The best thing you can do is to take some space and, you know, maybe go for a walk with your son or daughter and just get a breath of air and just, you know, unwind for a minute. You've had a long day. They've had a long day. But some things that you can do proactively is to have, like I said, a checklist. So depending on the kind of platform that your child is on, for virtual learning, where I am, a lot of people are using what's called Google Classroom, to have a couple of troubleshooting tips. So things that are like little reminders. So if you're finding that your child is always struggling to get the work submitted or uploading it, have a quick checklist of, well, what do you do? Remember, you look for this button and then you hit upload, or you look for this tab and then you hit submit. Something to remind them, because this is not, you know, second nature to them yet, even though they did some of this in the spring, possibly. You know, it's definitely not something that they're a pro at yet. So doing things like that could be very useful. Having a contact for them. So a lot of teachers are available throughout the day with virtual instruction, and you know, are more than happy to answer emails or get back and, you know, get in contact with you as soon as possible. So to reference that your child remember to email their teacher or contact their teacher and wait for a response. Teachers are a bit overwhelmed with that as well. So, you know, just making sure that they're remembering to be patient. But all they can do is their best. They can go through this checklist. They've tried all these things. If none of what's on here has worked and they're really frustrated, okay, take a break, walk away. We'll come back to it later. And sometimes even having a time in the evening where you sit down and do some troubleshooting together can be really helpful. So you're not spending all day just running back and forth between your kid's desk and your desk if you're working from home to try and get things submitted. You don't want to do that. It'll exhaust you and it's going to frustrate your child. And so I've had some parents that are very successful by saying, you know, my child works online, you know, throughout the day, does the best she can. And then around 6 o'clock after dinner, we go to her iPad together or her computer. We look at what she submitted. We check to see if things were done correctly. And if they weren't, at that point, we try and get it fixed together. And we spend about half an hour. But they have that set scheduled time where they touch base at the end of the day, which seems to make a really big difference, where they're not scrambling all day long just to try and get things, you know, they have one half an hour at the end of the day. Communication is a big issue between a lot of parents and teachers. They feel like they're not getting heard, or teachers feel like what they're sending isn't being seen. So one of the things that you can preemptively do, and a lot of schools do this already, I know where I am, we are trying to be as connected to parents as possible, but open up the forums so that there is a place and a chance for parents to ask questions to the teacher, or when these issues arise, is there something I should do? Most teachers, and I know myself included, never want kids to be crying and stressed out about work not getting sent in, or just, you know, the whole process being really overwhelming and miserable. So if you were to talk to your child's teacher, send them an email and say, hey, look, you know, so-and-so is really struggling with getting the work submitted before they have me look at it and check it. Are you okay with us submitting it by 6 o'clock at night? Because that gives me a chance to check in on it and get it submitted the right way. I'd be floored if the teacher said no. If this works for you and your family, we are completely aware that you're working full-time. We're trying to run a household or doing whatever it is you're doing, managing multiple kids in multiple virtual platforms. We're trying to make this easier for you, believe it or not. And if that means that you need that kind of a setup where you are checking work and getting it submitted by 6 or 7 o'clock at night or something like that, let the teacher know that that would really help you and it would work well for you and your child. Chances are they're going to be okay with it. But not letting them know that and just submitting it late all the time could be a problem. But if you do let the teacher know that this is something that would help you, or this is a problem you're having, and give them a little bit of grace to get back to. I think that you'd be shocked with how much they're willing to be lenient, as long as it's working for you guys and it's getting the work done and it's helping your child, which is ultimately the goal of what we're all trying to do through this virtual platform. So this was an interesting comment that I had. Was that my kids' behavior has really gone downhill. So we've gotten this topic a lot. Teachers have been giving this, and parents are concerned too, but their behavior's gone downhill. And this one mother wrote in how she's constantly fighting with her daughter now, and she never used to before. And all they are doing is fighting about schoolwork. And it's really driving a wedge between them. And she just doesn't know what to do anymore. She's just, had it. So I think what's tricky for teachers too as well is that we're not able to sort of gauge our virtual students' attitudes and behaviors the same way that we would if they were in the classroom. And so it's really been an issue. A lot of kids are feeling more anxious about work, are feeling more depressed because they're not having that interaction with their friends. And parents are just getting the brunt of all of it. And it's making things really hard for you. So I know a lot of parents think, do I just keep pushing for them to finish this work? Do I just, make them barrel through it? Is the grades all that I should care about? And so forth. So one of the things as a teacher I can tell you is that I care, and good educators will agree, you care a million times more about a child's health and wellness and happiness than you do about an actual grade in your grade book. So this would be another one of those times where you might want to connect with the teacher about what you can do, because if your child's feeling stressed and anxious 24/7, they're not learning because they're sitting there being so nervous about what's happening on the screen. Oh, good, getting some good questions. That you're getting so nervous about what's, or anxious about work that needs to get done or whatnot, that they're not learning. You can't learn in an environment like that. And so it's really challenging. It really is. So what I would say is to, one, reach out to your child's teacher to let them know that just health-wise or mental health-wise, they're really having a hard time. The work is not holding their interest. They're anxious all the time. They're lonely. They miss their friends. They're depressed. Is there any tips you can offer as an educator? And so one, it's really good to let your teacher know that, because it gives them an opportunity to play around with some different ways of work being submitted or the timelines for work. It also could give an opportunity for them to maybe work in a different model with that student, maybe do a breakout room session with some more group work so that they can feel a little bit more engaged with their classmates. If they don't know, though, they can't help. So it's really important to keep that communication with the teacher open so that they can address these issues. Where was I going? Oh, so the thing about anxiety too, kids in the classroom, kids at home, feeling anxious, definitely feeling anxious about everything. And so keeping in communication with the teacher, taking breaks throughout the day so that you're not constantly sitting at that screen, and being reminded that this is a new and an unprecedented way of teaching and learning. And sometimes I think our kids expect perfection. They think that we expect perfection from them. And this is not a platform that anybody is used to using or is the most conducive to learning. It's not. And so to remind our kids of that this is hard and that we agree it's really challenging and that we want to help them and support them the best way that we can. Not that it's impossible and not that we're being negative about it, because we don't want to do that. But that we want to praise them for what they are able to do and check in on them in that way. One of the things that I found to be really helpful is if you ask for any kind of a supplemental outside activity to do along the unit topic. So a lot of people ask, how do I keep them engaged? We're doing this insect unit and my child has no interest in insects whatsoever. And they're being asked to read this book online and it's boring and they're answering questions and they're over it. So a great thing, and teachers would be happy to provide you with a additional resources. But again, this does put some work on you as a parent. But if what you're really looking for is how can I get my child to be more motivated and engaged, would be getting some additional resources on the topic that the teacher is teaching. So again, going with the insect unit idea, and I'm using this because I've used this myself in my teaching, is it can be a very, something like, you know, a very straightforward kind of reading response, right? They're given a passage to read, they're asked to answer questions, and they're just sitting there like, this is the last thing I want to do. Reaching out to your teacher, to the teacher, and saying, you know, so-and-so loves nature, very interested in everything nature related, but really struggling with this kind of, you know, reading, answering questions. Is there something else that I could be doing in addition? Not saying they can't not do that, but is there something else that I could be doing outside with them that might boost their interest in it? You would be surprised. There's probably a lot of stuff the teacher has that she would be doing with your child if your child was in school and if we were running this as a normal format. I know for me, I had countless activities that I could have done in the classroom around this insect unit that I wasn't able to do because we were virtual. And when parents asked me for any kind of feedback like that, or they gave me that feedback, and I was able to, oh my gosh, I have the best little activity you can do outside in your backyard, and I'd send it to them. Or this is a really fun website to visit that has all sorts of hands-on crafts to do about building your own insect or bug. If you have the supplies at home, this would really be great. It would go right along with what we're doing in class about learning about the parts of an insect. So again, does this make more work for you as a parent? It does a little bit, yes. But the teacher is hindered in their ability to do all of this with your child virtually. So while we're trying to get across some of the more nuts and bolts parts of what your child needs to learn at this academic age, those fun, hands-on, more enticing activities through the screen, we just haven't been, or many teachers just have not been able to get to that point yet where it's that level of excitement and engagement that we could have in the classroom. And whether you're doing a hybrid model, where I am right now, a lot of schools are offering 3 models where they're either in person, they're virtual, or they're hybrid, they go back and forth. But even the kids that are in person, it's limited with what you can do in the classroom because of keeping your six feet distance. That's the rule where we are. And you're wearing your face masks. And a lot of teachers have amazing activities, but they have to put them away right now because it's not something that we can do in the classroom. So doing something, asking, but again, it's not on you as a parent to have to go and find supplemental activities for your child to get them excited about this insect unit. Ask the teacher. He or she probably has countless cool things for you to do at home if you want to, that might re-engage that interest. And then what would be wonderful is if the next day, you know, your child goes on that Zoom call or whatever, the Google Meet, however they're doing their engagement with the teacher, and says, oh my gosh, guess what I did last night? I built a cockroach using paper mache that, you know, you had sent my mom, and here's what it looks like. And they're showing it on the screen to their classmates. And all of a sudden that kind of lackadaisical sort of like, oh, I have to sign on and just listen again. Your child's excited to come on the screen and share something that they did about what they're learning, but they did it at home with their parents, and you know, and it was really engaging and really fun. So use your teachers as a resource. Again, chances are they have way more stuff than they're able to actually do virtually, but they have it, and they would be doing it if we were back in the classroom, you know, back in normal days. They just can't do it virtually, but they have it. So if you're willing to put the time in to do it with your kids at home, there's lots of stuff for you to do that aligns with the curriculum or what they're learning. That just is a great way to get them re-engaged. So I would reach out to your teachers. So let's see, how are we doing for time? Yes. So tips about, let's see, making the kids study and getting graded during this. So grading is an interesting topic actually that has come up with a lot of parents that are worried about how the grading system works when it's a virtual instruction. And teachers are also getting a lot of professional development on how to grade kids effectively when it's virtual instruction, because it's not the same, obviously. So one of the things that a lot of teachers are doing is much more project-based learning and grading. So what that is there is a bit more of independent work on your child, but it culminates in a bigger project that has more components to it. So, for example, rather than giving your child just a reading passage to answer questions on or a math worksheet, you might be working on a bigger project that actually encompasses a reading component, a writing component, maybe even a math component. And it's assessing your child's skills in a more fun project-based way versus doing constant worksheets, question and answer, pages, things like that. You may still see an amount of that, but what I've noticed, and what a lot of the professional development where I am has been targeting is more trying to get your child involved in a topic or a project that will engage them in all the areas, and teachers are going to be able to assess their understanding and hold them accountable for the skills learned through a bigger project. So you might be seeing a lot of that this fall. It definitely is coming through as best practice where I am. It's a very interesting way to, and actually a lot more interesting for a child because they're working on a project more independently, but using a variety of skills in that one project. So things like project-based learning, you might see a big shift in grading. But again, if you're ever worried about how your child is being graded virtually, a lot of schools are putting together platforms that show rubrics, that show how they're being graded. One thing that you might want to also pay attention to as a virtual student, if your kids are all virtual, is a lot of schools are implementing an additional grade to their grade book, which they're calling different things, but essentially what the grade is it's trying to hold your child accountable for being on the screen and participating. So in our last spring in where I am in Rhode Island, this all happened so quick. And, one day we were in school, the next day we weren't. We learned a lot through that. And one of the things that I know teachers really wanted, and parents have also asked that same question, is about worrying that their child's not participating and engaged. So a grade has been added to a lot of schools in each subject that's gauging your child's engagement in what they're doing, whether they're participating in the chat, whether their screen is on and they're there and they're present and they're, things like that, and how much effort they're putting into the virtual scope. Because again, because teachers are not there with your child in your house, we're not able to sort of, or we're not able to chit chat with them and have our own little conference or pull them in for a group assignment or something, because they're separate. And so it's very different. So we are trying to add in an additional grade to help with that. So you can see if that's happening in your district or where you are. Okay, so we're about 30 minutes in, so we'll see if there's any, there was a couple other, there's a lot of questions that I got from parents about building relationships, and they're really concerned about their kids' social and emotional development. And again, that was one of the top questions that teachers had too, was about how do I build not only relationships with my students, but how do I help foster those relationships and have them grow with others? Very hard, very challenging. If you're able to have any kind of a downtime break throughout the day, whether it's a snack time or a lunch time or a recess time or something like that, where your child can be on a Zoom call or a video feed call with the rest of the class or other kids that aren't there, just eating and chatting or whatever. It can be really nice to have that. They can be in groups and just sort of being together socially. It is more screen time. It is time that they're sitting, but it's not class time. It's time that they're being social and just sort of getting to chit chat and whatnot. A lot of groups too in my area, kids that are learning virtually are doing it in what are called little pods. And what's really nice about that is parents that are sort of rotating the responsibility of having a small group of kids. So they're usually keeping them between 5 to 6 kids that are roughly in the same grade level. But what they're doing is they're getting them together which is a lot easier to kind of keep them socially distanced when there's just 6 of them or 5 of them. And normally they're kids in the same neighborhood, or they might have been playing together throughout the summer. So there's been some interaction anyway. So they're feeling more comfortable with them being, around each other. But what's really nice about that is if you're able to do this, is they sort of, do their virtual learning, and they're, on their screens, and they're doing their work and whatnot. But those break times, they're together. So it's sort of like they were in a classroom. They might run outside together during the recess time in one of your backyards, or, or take a walk at snack time and eat their snack together or something like that. But it's giving them a bit of a chance to interact with some other kids, even family members, that have, cousins in the area they're kind of virtually learning together in small pods, doing their own work, but then it's those break times that they're getting together and kind of supporting each other in that social way. Other schools too are also really making a big effort to implement more social emotional learning classes online to sort of teach some techniques for your child. But one of the greatest things, and I can't stress this enough, is that as parents, we model a real positive attitude towards this whole approach. And one of my last articles that just came out yesterday is about that very topic, about being positive for your kids, because this is not a situation that anybody wants to be in. We all want our kids to be back in school. Teachers want their students back in school. We don't want to be teaching in 3 different formats, believe me. But we're all sort of being forced to do the best we can do right now. And one of the biggest pillars or hindrances in our kids' education is if we promote a real sense of negativity around it. This is so hard, this is impossible, this is awful, this isn't the same, blah, blah, blah. If we do that, our kids are going to think that, and they're going to sign into every Zoom meeting thinking, this is so stupid, this is so boring, this is so blah, because they've heard a lot of that negativity from us, or even from the news, or from just other people talking. They pick up on that. And while there's nothing wrong with saying that this is different and this is going to be a challenge and we're going to tackle this together and it's going to be hard, but this is what we're going to do right now to get the best out of it, it changes the mindset immensely. In my last article that just again went out the other day, there's a great little affirmations card in there that you could print that I would highly suggest reading every morning with your kids. It's reiterating how this situation we're in is hopefully temporary, and how we are only responsible for doing the best we can do in the moment. We might have a really hard day and not get much accomplished, and that's okay. And then we might have a great day the next day and get a lot done. That's wonderful. But that this situation we're in is what we're in, but we can still make the best out of it. And verbally, verbalizing those statements, there's about 8 of them on the card, are really positive. It's a great way to start the day. And for you and for your child, and to sort of make the most out of that. So I would urge you to go on that. So again, the blog that I write is annamisurelli.com. It's called Education Beyond the Classroom, and it's a teacher's perspective on a lot of insights and strategies and tips for you as parents who are really looking for supplementing your child's education at home, whether it's academic stuff, social emotional stuff, tips for you as far as handling certain situations in different grade levels. But if you have any questions or there's things that you would like me to address, I'm always looking for feedback. You can email me at beyondtheclassroom at annamisurelli.com, or it's on into the blog and just send me a message that way. But I hope that I was able to talk about at least some of the issues that have been coming up. There are so many, but really to remember that teachers and parents are facing a lot of the same challenges, and to be as respectful of each other as possible, and know that for every parent that's at home about to pull their hair out because they can't get their child to focus on their Zoom call, or they can't get them to submit their work, there is a teacher at her house or his house or in the classroom who is pulling their hair out and is just like, oh, I wish I could reach this kid. I have such great stuff for them to do, but it's such a struggle with this virtual, I can't just, I can't do the hands-on activity I know they would love because they seem like a real creative visual learner. And, it goes both ways. Both are trying to make the best out of it. Both are working harder than ever before. Parents are being asked to do the impossible. Teachers are being asked to do the impossible. And all we can do is really try our best and communicate respectfully with each other. So I urge you to get in contact with your child's teacher as soon as possible. And please feel free to go and check out my blog if you'd like. And I hope that I gave some interesting tips or some good information today. So thank you so much for having me, Wandering Minds. This was a great experience for me, my first Facebook Live. And I will talk to you all soon, and hopefully I'll see you on my blog. All right, take care. Thank you.